guess what time it is?
I don't know. It might be Thursday. Let me think.
It is, and it is time to stop and take a breath. And I don't want anyone to be concerned. It is not 2:30. It is actually after 3 o'clock. So it's okay. But it's time to put things down. Let's just stop, take a breath, and let's just spend some time together.
Wow. Wendy, we just got off a great podcast talking about generosity and generous giving. I don't know about you, but I was a little bit moved by that. And I'm excited about today as well as we talk about our theme and topic. I want to welcome everyone. This is our second part of our 5-part series to 5 keys to successful business. Last week we discussed knowing your purpose and your assignment. And I hope over this past week you've had an opportunity to reflect on your purpose and your business. And so if you have some insights that you'd love to share with us, put it in the chat. We'll be able to catch up with that, and then we'll be able to answer them or share them with others as well. So, Wendy, this week, part 2, what are we going to be covering?
Well, this is one of my favorites of the 5 is what is your product and service? And wow, this is a big I think it's a big challenge sometimes, especially when we've got such a big heart and we want to do so many things. I don't know, maybe none of you ladies have ever overextended yourself or taken on more than you probably should have. Maybe not.
Never me.
Me neither. I had to look that one up. Somebody had to explain it to me. I didn't even know. But you know what? It is so true to really understand what your product and services are. And then, is this kind of in alignment? And, I always like to start with kind of a something that's just real life with us, right? We usually kind of expose a little of ourselves here to the ladies. But, when the lockdown first started, I was looking for something to do that was artful and relaxing for me. And so I began making jewelry. I had done this before, and so I started making jewelry. Well, we were in lockdown, so we were spending a lot of time at home, and I spent a lot of time making jewelry, and I had a lot of jewelry. And my family, my children and my mom and my sister and everybody was saying, you really need to start a business. You should just, you should start this business. And I thought, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. Sure, let's just get this started. Okay. And then I had to stop and think about it for a second because I understand what my purpose is. And I was very clear. The Lord has been very clear on what my current assignment is. And so I had to pause and ask, is this part of my assignment? And if it's not, is this the time to do this? And so much to everybody else's surprise, I was like, no, I am not going to start a business. I can't do this. Because what I realized is that it wasn't in alignment with my calling. And so what I did is I chose to use the jewelry, to support my current assignment. And so now I do sell it, but I sell it to raise scholarship money for women in business. And I get to walk out my calling. So again, what's your product and service? And it leads us right to our first talking point, doesn't it?
It sure does. And Wendy, as a recipient of the beautiful jewelry that you made, I was really glad you took up this hobby, frankly. But I understood exactly what you're doing. And I love the way that you pivoted and said, how do I use, because we all need a creative outlet. We all need to use another side of our brain. And you have a lot of creativity within you. And so how do I use that and use it for a way that supports, as you said, my assignment or my calling? So that, as you said, our first talking point. And the question is there a need for what you're doing? Is there a market need for what you have? How do you know that? And I've said it before, and I know that maybe it sounds like a broken record, but entrepreneurs love to do what they do. Well, you love making jewelry and there's satisfaction out of it. But they don't always know or always do the research in the market to know if there is a need for it, or if the marketplace even wants what they're producing. And so the question we have to ask ourselves, does your product doing your service, does it meet or satisfy a need? And the way to find that out is through research. And that's a critical component. You have to go out and look and find, if is there a need for what you're doing? And many entrepreneurs don't even know the questions to ask and the answer and where to find the answers. So Wendy, how do you go about finding out whether there is a need and where to find the answers to that question?
Well, you're speaking my language, right?
I know.
All about
I know. That's why I asked.
You need to know the questions to ask, right? As an entrepreneur, you don't have to do everything, but you got to know the questions to ask so you can make an informed decision. And, this is really, this first point is there a need for what you do, and how do you know? Well, no, there was not a need for somebody to make more jewelry. There were crystal beaded jewelry. There was not a need. So that was a very important factor. And so here's a few questions. So ladies, you can write these down and just answer these questions before you kind of jump out there. So the first one is, does my product satisfy a need? Okay, so my jewelry, yes, it did satisfy a need. I wanted to wear pretty jewelry and it needed to accessorize with every outfit. Well, that was my need. But does your product satisfy a need in the marketplace? Because, see, it was satisfying my need for a creative outlet. And sometimes our businesses satisfy our need to give back or our passion, but does it satisfy a need in the marketplace? The second question is, who needs my product or service? And it needs to be someone besides, your 2 or 3 friends. My friend here, Deborah, needed my jewelry very badly. I knew she needed it.
I did.
Right? Right?
I did. I love it.
So again, who needs your product and service? And then who else offers the same product and service? Because you do have to know who your competitors are, right? Because you have to know, is there enough market for your product? And the fourth question is, what makes my product or service unique? So some people call it your unique, your differentiator, right? Your unique,
the word selling point.
Yes. So these are just 4 questions. There are more to start with, but these are the ones you want to start asking yourself before you dive in.
So, Wendy, I asked myself the questions, but how do I find the answers? How do you find the answers?
Well, I have a very good friend named Google, and I start there. But it is not the only place I go to. So if you're going to do some market research and industry research, you can start there and Googling it and just asking the question. But a couple of things you're going to want to make sure you're being aware of is, when was the answer published? Because if the answer to the question was published 5 years ago, it may not be correct today. I mean, we've all seen this last year has really changed how we all do business and think about business and even just really live our lives. And so you want to make sure that the date of that data is still relevant. And then the next thing is, believe it or not, the public library has free resources for you to do some of the best research that you can find. We had last year, at the beginning of the year, we had a lady, I'm missing her name at the moment, who spoke at our Connect group and showed us all of the resources that are available. All you need is a library card, and all you need to do is just contact the public library and ask, and they'll be happy to help you. But wow, What a wealth of information.
Yeah, it's one of these critical parts before we even get started, because these great questions and resources that we have at our hand is to begin the research process. But it also leads us to the next talking point, talking point number 2. Is this a business or is it a hobby, Wendy? Can it
Ooh.
be profitable, sustainable? And really, what's important? Why do we need to know the difference?
Well, I'm going to tell you probably the most accurate description between a hobby and a business. A business can earn revenue, and a hobby is going to cost you money. So, business will earn you money, and a hobby will cost you money. So, the question is this going to be something you can make profitable? I determined that the jewelry business was not something I could make profitable. Aside from it wasn't in alignment, right, with my current assignment, it also wasn't something I had enough time to devote to. It was also, I didn't have enough differentiator of my jewelry. It wasn't different enough. So it made a huge difference. It made a big impact on that decision. And the other thing that, you have to start thinking about is how much capital am I going to need to start this business? And again, we go back to knowing the questions to ask, right? So you need to know, how much is it going to cost me to register my business with the state? Because every state is different. How much is it going to cost me to purchase the products I may need? How much is the technology going to cost? What technology might I need? And when I talk about technology, I'm talking about, a website, I'm talking about, QuickBooks, or, some of those things. But what technology am I going to need, and what is it going to cost? And Deborah, I don't know about you, but we've taught a couple of BE classes together. And I think this is the one area that I find that most entrepreneurs don't have a realistic understanding, and that is marketing costs. What is the marketing going to cost?
Well, even deeper than that, Wendy, is that dollars are one thing,
That's
but
right.
time is another. And do I need to go find an expert in some of these areas, somebody who can help me? Okay, I can post to Facebook, but to have a real social media campaign, I need to go and invest in an expert to help me. Now, I realize that any 16 or 15-year-old can probably help you, but if you really are running a business, you need a business professional to help you to create those campaigns and understand what it's going to take. What does the marketing look like? I mean, it's beyond business cards,
Yep.
having a professional looking brochure, if you're having either, if it's digital or physical. There are costs that are involved in that.
And there's a lot to think about that too. And I love that you brought up the fact that it's more than just the dollars. Because when we teach the marketing chapter in our biblical entrepreneurship class, and we talk about that marketing is not just the ad that you put out there, it's not just the post, it's how do you collect your leads, what do you do with them, how do you over deliver, how do you serve them, how do you close the sale? Marketing is so much more than just, I'm going to spend some money on Facebook ads. It's so much more than that. The other thing is, and this again is one of the areas that I find so many new entrepreneurs forget to do this step. And then entrepreneurs who've been in business forget to keep doing it. And that is, what is your cost of goods? And then what is your overhead going to be to run your business? Because that dictates your pricing, your ability to be profitable. But most people struggle with what the difference is and what goes into your cost of goods. So I'm going to give you ladies an added tip here, because this is one of my hot buttons, right? This is the thing I'm big on. What goes in your cost of goods is the expense that you incur to sell that product or service. Okay. If you have to pay the bill, whether you sell the product or not, that's overhead. You have to pay your phone bill whether you sell something or not. If I'm making shirts, I don't have to pay for a sewing machine. Or I have to pay for a sewing machine in order to sell that product. So it's a big difference. And really having a clear understanding that is so important. But guess what, Deborah?
I know what comes back to I just love what I do and it'll be okay. And, things will work out. And, we tell ourselves a lot of things. Well, you have your hot button and I have mine. And that is following your finances and knowing what your expenses and your revenue is. And so we have kind of a funny little saying, we call it Finance Fridays, where we set aside a time to really look at the expenses and revenue for the week. And it's important to run a profitable business. You have to know your numbers. You can't say, I'm just not good with banking or with bookkeeping. If you're running a business, you need to know. You need to invest the time and effort that it takes in order to understand what your bank register is telling you. What is your profitability and your income statement telling you? What's your balance sheet saying about your ability to run a profitable business? And I don't know, cash flow. If Cash is king, ladies. Sorry to say it. You have to have it in order to pay your vendors, in order to pay the people around you. You need to pay yourself out of it and be able to invest back in the business. If you don't have product and you don't have cash, you can't buy the product to make more. And so you have to know what those expenses are and looking at your financials. They tell you a story. And that story is something that you need to know so that you can pivot. You can make strong financial decisions about your business to know that either you need to decrease your expenses or sell more product. What is it? What is it that you need to do? And so invest in understanding what your financials are telling you, because the story is what's going to make the difference between being successful and closing your doors. And that could have a direct impact on your family. And sometimes I don't think about that, Wendy, but our families invest. And whether we start with savings that come out of our family's budget, or that our family is investing into us, they've given us money to start with, the time that we've used, we want to be good stewards of that as well. And the Lord asks us to do that. Well, okay.
I'm with you on this one. It's the banker in both of us that comes out, right? Not understanding that, I don't balance my checkbook. I let the bank tell me what's in there. Okay, I know that'll light our hair on fire. So that's the bankers in us.
just because you forget about that check that you wrote or that debit that you made and you didn't record it. It's still out there. It hasn't processed yet. Yeah. Or I don't know, perhaps your somebody hasn't paid you for their product yet. They still owe you the money. You can't pay your vendor because you haven't been paid. It's a vicious cycle, and it just weighs on us. The emotional cost of that is just incredible when we are waiting to pay someone else or we have debt that we're owing. And so knowing those numbers and being able to stay on top of it is absolutely critical to do. Well, Wendy, I'm going to talk about number 3 because this is another one as well. And it is, so the research that you've done about your business, have you asked God about starting or expanding, creating a business? Do you know that this is what God has asked you to do, how you are to use the skills, gifts, talents, the treasures that He has given to you? And have we operated it? Have we asked Him that question? Because it's really an indication of our reliance upon Him and His purposes and plans. And I'm going to say it, it's not about our own selfish desires or the way that we think we want to go. It's one of the critical areas to begin with. And we always ask our entrepreneurs to start with fasting and prayer as they begin building out a plan.
That is so important. And what I would say is this is one of the most important questions that you need answered. Okay, now notice I said you need answered, not that you need to ask. Okay, there are a lot of questions, but this is the one that you need an answer to. You need clarification from the Lord that yes, this is the business that He wants you to be in. We have to ask, when we're not listening, we get off track, and we can move into the wrong direction. Because see, when we're not walking in our purpose and using our gifts, skills, and talents to their fullest potential, I'm going to tell you that makes being in business 100 times harder. Plus, when it gets really hard, if it's not what you're supposed to be doing, we have a tendency to give up and not finish. And that is a really tough place because, when I first started making the jewelry and they were all, you need to do this. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I start, checking the boxes, I'm starting a business, checking the boxes. And I started, taking the pictures, creating the, and I thought, oh, wait a minute. No, this is just too hard. And I wanted to give up. And it was another obvious answer from the Lord that this is not what I'm asking you to do. I'll let you know if I want you to do this, but this is not what I want you to do. And that is important.
It is important. I talk about it. You enjoyed it. It was something fun to do. It was a hobby. Mm-hmm. And there is a place, there is a sweet spot for our hobby. But I've been talking about this title recently, and being in God's sweet spot for our purpose and plan is where it's not so much difficulty. We're not feeling that we are resentful of the time or efforts that we put in because, oh my gosh, it just feels right. We know that we know. And we're able just to go ahead and put in the effort because being an entrepreneur is hard work. It isn't okay, I think I'll start about 9 a.m. and I'll get done about 3 when the kids get home. It's about, oh, wait a minute, I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning and I might not finish until after everybody goes to bed at night because I've got other things I need to do. It is a commitment, but there is joy in that commitment as well. And it's about being able to fulfill what God's called on us. Yesterday, Wendy, I had a conversation with an entrepreneur in another country, and she was talking about that she just didn't feel like her business had been going in the right direction, and that it was taking a long time for her to get to some of the milestones she had set for herself. And in this conversation, she was saying, another person that she'd been mentoring in the same field come up alongside of her and had bypassed her, gone past her own milestones.
Wow.
And it reminded me of what we talked about. We cannot compare ourselves with another person.
Right.
We have to keep our eyes focused on what our race is. And whatever the Lord has told us that this is what He wants us to do. It may be a big business, it may be a smaller business. In the end, it's His business. And what does He want for us to do? And so keeping our eyes peeled on our race, keeping tuned in to God and what He's telling us about that business is where we need to come to and ensure that we're hearing His voice and that we're not acting on our own.
And and that brings a good point when we talked about your product and service. You may want to add another product or another service, but if that's not what God's wanting your business to do, then yes. So I could imagine God may be calling her mentee in this direction, serving and doing this, but not her. when I had my cleaning business, I went through that. I thought, oh, I wanted to do helping hands, and we were going to offer all this other stuff, car wash and detailing and pressure washing and all this other crazy stuff. And I thought, well, we're doing this. We're in people's homes. This would be great. And you know what? It wasn't where God was really calling that business to be. And I'm going to tell you, every step of that was hard, 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 hard. There was not one thing that worked out easily. Now, I had a few successes, but at the end, it was just too hard. And it took me off my focus of what God called us to do, what we were really good at.
That's exactly right. Wow. Well, this just starts the topic. This just is part of the conversation. And ladies, as you can tell, Wendy and I could talk forever about it, and we do when we're in biblical entrepreneurship certificate class or executive class. So, if you want to know more, you want to get your business in alignment with God's His desires for you. We have a couple of ways in which to help you. Wendy, you want to share with the ladies what that might be?
Well, there are a couple of ways. First of all, you can reach out to Deborah and I, and we can make sure we get you placed in the right place. First of all, we have our biblical entrepreneurship. You can do it as a self-study with a coach that's going to help you walk through that. You can take one of our BE certificate classes. We have several of them being offered. You can take our executive, or if you're already in business, then I'm going to recommend coaching. Because what you need is a coach to kind of hold you accountable and kind of keeping you focused on the thing you're called to do and accomplish whatever challenges are before you. So you can do that either through one-on-one coaching, or you can do that through our group coaching. And we have both opportunities. But I'm going to tell you, ladies, if you're thinking, I just don't know about all this, finances are tight, then here's what I'm going to tell you to do, and this is the best thing for you to do. Go onto our website and become a diamond member of the e-community. It's $100 a month. You get all kinds of services. You get 30% off anything you purchase. But here's the thing you're going to get that's going to help you right now is you get 30 minutes of coaching from a coach of your choice every month. And that will get you started. So for just $100 a month, you can do that. So you have a lot of options. And you have to, again, what do we say? I think up in number 2 or 3 that said, ask the Lord for which one you need to do.
Exactly. Well, we have some scripture to share with you. And then I would just want to say before we get ready to close here, Wendy, with our scripture, is that we have part 3 coming up next week.
That's right.
So we're going to continue this conversation as well. You want to be here to hear that and hear about that. Exactly. Well, here's one of my favorite scriptures, Wendy, from Matthew 6:33. And, as we're thinking about, am I in the right business or not? It admonishes us to seek first the kingdom of God in His righteousness. And then all these things, all these richness that Lord has for us will be added unto you.
Oh, I love that. And again, seek the Lord first. That is so true. And our second scripture for you today is Deuteronomy 8:18. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today. Ladies, you can't skip the steps, right? You can't skip any of these steps. So what we want to do is make sure that you ask the right questions, starting with the Lord, and then continue to seek good counsel. So thank you guys so much. We are running out of time. BB asks, who are the coaches? Deborah and I are 2 of the coaches that you can choose from. We do have others on our website, as well as when you are a diamond member and you go to choose your coaching appointment. There are a number of coaches, Patrice, we have Brian and Richard and Charles, and we have quite a few coaches now that you can choose from. But Deborah and I would, ladies, we would love to serve you and help you out in this, if this is where you feel you need to go. But we are out of time. So the one thing we want to make sure we leave you with is look to the Lord and his strength. Seek his face always. 1 Chronicles 16:11. We hope to see you next week. Take care.
Have a blessed week. Bye, everybody.